I know that it's a bit of a circus at the best of times.
Well, don't worry. Headliners has got you covered. We'll take the burden of reading the day's news, and if we get depressed, who cares? It's an occupational hazard, frankly. That's Headliners on GB News from 11 p.m. till midnight, and the following morning, 5 till 6 a.m. on GB News, the comedy channel. Nah, just kidding. Britain's news channel.
I'm Patrick Christie's. Every weeknight from 9, I bring you 2 hours of unmissable, explosive debate and headline-grabbing interviews. What impact has that had?
We got death threats and the bomb threats on.
As time passes,
she could have said storm.
You made my argument for me.
My guests and I tackle the issues that really matter, with a sharp take on every story.
It went everywhere.
Something practical could be done.
I can become something different.
Patrick Christie's tonight from 9 p.m. only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
From the world headquarters of GB News, this is Friday Night Live with Mark Dolan. The weekend starts here, so bring your own drinks. The admission is free. On tonight's show, could the reform race row derail Nigel Farage's party days before the election? Did Joe Biden make Donald Trump look like the new Abraham Lincoln last night? As another middle-aged star faces the axe, whatever happened to old people on TV? And is Glastonbury a festival of hypocrisy? To fall out over those topics and more, tonight's Friday A-Team, Reem Ibrahim, Alex Dyke and Roger Gewol. My Friday Feeling monologue is on the way. My look back at the week's big political stories. But first, the news headlines and GB News royalty with a special guest appearance as our newsreader this evening, the one and only Cameron Walker.
You're too kind, Mark. Thank you. Hello, I'm Cameron Walker in the GB newsroom. The Prime Minister says the leader of Reform UK has questions to answer after a video emerged of a campaigner making racist comments. Andrew Parker was seen making a series of offensive remarks about the Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak. He's now apologised but insists he was goaded into making them. Rishi Sunak says it's part of a broader pattern of behaviour. A warning, the following clip contains some offensive language.
When my 2 daughters have to see and hear Reform people who campaign for Nigel Farage calling me an effing, it hurts and it makes me angry, and I think he has some questions to answer. When you see Reform candidates and campaigners seemingly using racist and misogynistic language and opinions, seemingly without challenge, I think it tells you something about the culture within the Reform Party. Our politics and country is better than that. It's my duty to call out this corrosive and divisive behaviour.
Nigel Farage said earlier that the comments have no place in the party and describes the secretly recorded video as a setup. But responding to Mr Farage's claims, the Channel 4 spokesperson said they strongly stand by what they called rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which they say speaks for itself. Reform UK has increased their lead in the election polls despite a difficult week for the party with allegations of racism. A poll conducted by the Whitestone Insight has found that Labour has maintained top spots, but both Reform and the Conservatives are fighting for second place. Electoral Calculus said if the above result were to be repeated at next week's election, it would result in a Labour majority of 244 seats, with the Conservatives on 57, the Lib Dems on 72 and Reform on 31. To the US now, and President Joe Biden says he intends to win the election in his first public event since his struggle during the first televised debate last night. He's just been speaking in the last couple of hours at a rally in North Carolina where Democrats are hoping to win the state back from the Republicans this November. He claims America itself is at stake and accused the former US President Donald Trump of repeatedly lying and said he has the morals of an alley cat. After his own shaky performance during the debate last night, President Biden directly addressed the limits of his old age.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth. I know right from wrong. And I know how to do this job. I know how to get things done. And I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
Back in the UK now, and lawyers for two people who became sick after eating sandwiches contaminated with E. coli have started legal action against Tesco and Asda. The claims relate to an 11-year-old girl who ate a chicken salad sandwich. She's now been on dialysis for 3 weeks after falling ill. Separate legal action is also being taken against Tesco on behalf of a man who says he regularly purchases sandwiches for his lunch. At least 122 people have been admitted to hospital since the start of the outbreak, which has also led to the recall of wraps and salads sold at several major retailers. And in royal news, Princess Anne has returned home after several days in hospital with minor injuries and concussion. The 73-year-old is believed to have been struck by a horse while walking on her Gatcombe Park estate in Gloucestershire on Sunday. Her husband, Vice Admiral Tim Lawrence, has thanked the team at Southmead Hospital in Bristol for their care, expertise and kindness. Well, those are the latest GB News headlines for now. I'm Cameron Walker. More in an hour.
For the very latest GB News direct to your smartphone, sign up to News Alerts by scanning the QR code or go to gbnews.com/alerts.
What was that old saying about I'd rather have a lucky general than a smart one? Sir Keir Starmer certainly seems to be guided by a higher power at the moment, and it's not Angela Rayner. Firstly, Rishi Sunak calls a snap election that his party were clearly not ready for. Nigel Farage unexpectedly throws his hat in the ring, diluting the Conservative vote. And now Rishi Sunak is embroiled in a gambling row over candidates' alleged betting on the timing of a general election. It sets the theme of this race, the Conservatives in a self-inflicted death spiral. But all is not lost. Michael Gove has pointed to the surprise Brexit result in 2016 and Donald Trump's unexpected victory in the same year to become president as proof that it's all to play for. Now, this either demonstrates Michael Gove's keen eye for political history or that he's back on the Columbian marching powder. We'll draw a line under that one. However, whilst buoyant in the polls with the promise of real change and an end to Tory failure, Labour are not without their problems. And with just 6 days to go until polling day, Sir Keir Starmer is going to face unprecedented scrutiny, particularly given their rather vague manifesto that raises more questions than a Gary Barlow tax return. So the choice is clear for the British public. The Tories, who have crashed the economy and lost their credibility for sound governance, or Labour, who'll tax us to oblivion and empower the striking unions. Lucky us. I'm positively pinching myself. While still performing strongly in the polls, Reform UK are currently embroiled in an almighty racism row with Channel 4. More on that a little later in the show. The Green Party continue their message of saving the planet, which is laudable, but their progressive agenda will likely impact not just carbon emissions, but our wallets too. And I doubt that Just Stop Oil's pathetic stunt in Stonehenge would have done the eco-cause any good. J.K. Rowling, increasingly right about everything, dryly suggested that Just Stop Oil are so bad and so annoying, perhaps they're funded by the oil industry. She is good with her words, isn't she? She should go professional. And Rowling is also proving a thorn in the side to Sir Keir Starmer over trans rights. She is a woman with balls. And then there's the Lib Dems, who are flirting with potentially 50 seats in the next Parliament and are attracting both Labour and Tory voters with the promise of action on social care. But will Sir Ed Davies' handling of the Post Office scandal see them lose some support? Postal votes are surely a worry. Lol. I think we can all agree that whatever happens, the outcome of this election cannot come too soon. I've noticed a lack of engagement in this whole process and a lack of faith in all politicians and a boredom with the entire Westminster soap opera. It seems that the Euros, Wimbledon and barbecued sausages, burnt on the outside, raw in the middle, standard, are a far stronger draw than the election hustings. Who cares if a winter of discontent is coming? With the sun and warm weather finally with us, what Brits really want to vote for is a proper summer. Reacting to the big stories of the day, I'm delighted to bring in my Friday friends. Here are, with me in no particular order, Reem Ibrahim, Roger Gewolb, and Alex Dyke. Reem, let me start with you. Great to have you on the show.
Thank you.
Right, summer's here, and let's be honest, the public are trying to ignore this election, aren't they?
They are. Summer's here. I'm in my summer dress, and I'm very happy. You're absolutely right. I think what's really interesting is, other elections that we've had, for example, in 2019, in December, just before Christmas, people did not want to go campaigning in the freezing cold. And I think that a lot of people don't want to go campaigning in the nice, warm weather when they can instead be at the pub enjoying a nice pint of beer. I would say, though, I think that what's interesting about the election as a whole is that I found that there hasn't been a lot of policy substance coming from either leader, and I think that the votes that Reform UK have been able to pick up have been as a result of that. A lot of people are voting Reform not necessarily because they like what policies they stand for, but actually because they are just so disenfranchised and upset with the Conservative Party.
Roger Gewolb, is this just a procession for the Labour Party and a rubber stamping of Keir Starmer as our next Prime Minister?
I think not. I think he's got real opposition from Farage, from Jeremy Corbyn, and from George Galloway. And I keep hearing it's going to be a landslide, but it could be a landslide. It could also be a hung parliament, not a well-hung one, because none of these people have any you-know-whats, but...
Speak for yourself, Roger.
Yeah, well, OK, but I mean...
It might be cold in this studio, but this is another story.
But I am, as your viewers will hopefully know, somebody who tries to cut through the fog to the facts and maintain focus. And 9 days ago, as many people will know, I made a prediction and a proposal, which is quite outrageous, but the overwhelming support that I have received for it is quite encouraging. I proposed that Nigel Farage is handed the keys to the Tory party and that Reform merges with a very small m with the Tories before the election. Let me spell that out. The Tories are burnt toast. It will be years, decades. They've done themselves so much harm. End of. Sir Ed the postman doesn't even ring once. Vasey's party could end up as the opposition. That's fine, but it's not going to mean much. Reform could win. We've just seen as much as 31 seats, but given our system, as I say, it would be a hung parliament, not much. I don't think that anybody, even Nigel, is going to sit around for 5 years and watch Starmageddon and then try to put it back together, turning Reform into the opposition. That's going to be very difficult. And if the same people are still in the Tories, then he's not going to want to work with them, and vice versa. So, to conclude, my proposal is that somebody, and I have volunteered myself, broker a deal between the Tories and the Reform Party. I've been to constitutional law experts. It's very easily done with an agreement, a concordat, if you will, that spells out what happens. Fishy Rishi goes to the king. The next day he resigns, Nigel takes over. Same thing with the cabinet. Good Tories stay in post, or even better. The swamp is drained, and we get what we want, and we are not sent to Starmageddon Corbynesia for the next 5 or 10 years.
I just wonder whether the far-fetched part of that, because nothing would surprise me in politics in 2024, is the idea of Sunak resigning to make way for Nigel Farage. They've already had a row over a very racist person campaigning on behalf of Reform UK, exposed by Channel 4. So there's no way that Sunak is going to stand down. Is there a halfway house? Is there a way that Sunak remains leader but brings Farage in as Foreign Secretary or Home Secretary?
Have you met Nigel Farage?
Once or twice.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't think you work that way with Nigel.
He's nobody's number two.
And especially
he's actually a lot of people's number two.
And especially not Fishy Rishi. Look, the whole Andrew Parker thing, Nigel is now saying may well be a plant.
Well, we're actually going to come to that.
Yeah, I'm not going to go there. I'm just going to say I think it's a red herring. I think it is symptomatic of the level of tensions going on right now between these two parties that face a very desperate future.
All right, Fishy Rishi, red herring. You're getting low on fish and seaworthy metaphors at the moment. But listen, what an idea from Gewolb there, Alex Dyke. The idea that the Tories and Nigel Farage strike some kind of extraordinary 11th hour deal, supposedly, assumedly, to keep Keir Starmer out of number 10?
Yeah, I think Roger, as crazy as it may sound to some viewers, I think Roger is onto something here. I also think that Ree made a good point when she said that...
First time for everything.
And you in the monologue too, brilliant monologue.
Oh, thank you.
Fantastic.
You can come back.
We've got a situation where the sun has come out after a very, very wet, dismal winter and spring. The Euros are on. People are excited about that. So the fair weather voters and lots of others have pushed politics right out of their minds. They don't care about this election. There's nothing to get passionate about apart from Nigel Farage.
I think you're right that, normal people, I think we tend to overestimate how much normal people actually care about what's going on in SW1.
Well, I'm a normal person, so ask me.
I think generally speaking, if I ask my parents or any of my family members, they're absolutely not involved in politics at all. They just don't care. They see themselves as effectively having two choices of the same. I was going to say something a bit cheeky. They're not allowed on air, but effectively of the two cheeks of the same, and you can expect what the next sentence is. Exactly.
No, one of my followers tweeted as a choice between stepping in dog muck or cat muck.
Yeah, I mean, effectively it is. I've got to say, Roger, with all due respect, I think that what you are saying is absolutely for the birds. I cannot see any situation in which Nigel Farage effectively brokers the deal with Rishi Sunak and leads the Conservative Party. Well, I think they're too broken.
A number of people have said that to me, but let me make the point very clear. I am doing this because I want it on the record. I think within the zeitgeist of the nation, if you will, those people who don't care, who didn't turn out for the London mayoral vote, who may not turn out for this one, at the back of their mind, Starmageddon is very, very frightening.
You say Starmageddon. We've had Torygeddon for 14 years.
Absolutely.
And Farage is on the right. Why do you have such a God-given right to be in power? Isn't it time Labour got a crack at it?
Let me just finish the point, if I may, Mark. They know that it's not going to be fun. It's not going to be an improvement. It's not going to be comfortable. Let's just put it that way without going into the details. What I'm saying is I want it on the record, historically, that there was an option to at least sit down and talk. And if that option isn't taken up, I'm trying to get Nigel to allow me or somebody to go over there and try to put something together. If that isn't explored, at least, and we end up very unhappy, then that could have been avoided if our leaders, who have failed us miserably so far on all sides, didn't at least even try that.
OK, well, listen, of course, Labour would argue that after 14 years in which the right have been in control, it's time for left to have a go to fix our broken economy and our depleted public sector. Of course, Labour would argue it is time for change. But next up, could the reform race row derail Nigel Farage days before the election? And did Joe Biden make Donald Trump look like the new Abraham Lincoln last night? See you in 2.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
Almost half of those seeking to have an affair are happier with their job than with their primary relationship. But what exactly does a cheater do for a living?
Well, medical assistants and nurses, surprisingly, top the lists of professions for female cheaters, and it's jobs in IT or tech for male cheaters, which I think is less of a surprise.
No.
This is all according to a survey by the dating site Ashley Madison.
OK, so why do people cheat? To answer this, we're joined now by broadcaster and psychotherapist Lucy Beresford. Good morning, Lucy.
Morning, Lucy.
So, is it OK of me to say naughty nurses in this day and age? Am I going to get cancelled for that?
You're out.
Yeah, I'm out.
Been cancelled.
See ya.
There's the door.
But yes, you're talking about the caring professions, and I think it's very appropriate.
Surprised by that.
Women, well, because they're very nurturing, very loving, very giving, whereas the males who are in tech and IT, very strategic.
Is there a link between high-pressure jobs, maybe nurses infamously, you know, they're working long hours, underpaid, stressed out? Is there a link between jobs of that nature and cheating, maybe as a relief?
Absolutely. Is it just about sex, or is it about emotional connection? Is it about emotional validation? And increasingly, people are discovering that their primary relationship is just not a place where they feel safe
This survey found that personality didn't actually come into it that much. It was about half and half if you're an introvert or an extrovert that you'd be likely to have an affair.
I think that's right. And I think that just speaks to the fact that all people want to have a good emotional connection. So it doesn't matter whether you're really social or whether you're someone who has to recharge your batteries in private time, that actually we only ever want three things in life. We want to feel safe, we want to feel loved, but we also want to feel heard. And in increasingly a number of marriages and long-term relationships, we get into grooves, we get into ruts, and we stop hearing our partner, we stop listening to them, and they stop listening to us.
The People's Channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking...
This is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Christopher Hope. From pop stars to politicians, I'll interview anybody in a pub who's got a political opinion. Join me every Friday on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, YouTube or gbnews.com, or wherever you get your podcasts. GB News, Britain's election channel.
In the GB newsroom, we bring you the news as it happens.
With our team of dedicated journalists across the UK, GB News brings you accurate reporting of the day's topical agenda.
When the news breaks, wherever and whenever it's happening,
we'll be there.
This is GB News.
The People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Homophobic and racist comments apparently made by Reform UK members have been recorded by an undercover Channel 4 journalist while they campaigned for Nigel Farage to become Clacton's MP. One offensive comment was used to describe the Prime Minister Rishi Sunak, who has today responded. Take a listen.
When my two daughters have to see and hear Reform people who campaign for Nigel Farage calling me an effing, it hurts and it makes me angry, and I think he has some questions to answer. When you see Reform candidates and campaigners seemingly using racist and misogynistic language and opinions, seemingly without challenge, I think it tells you something about the culture within the Reform Party. Our politics and country is better than that. It's my duty to call out this corrosive and divisive behaviour.
Nigel Farage has said the person in question is an actor. Here he is speaking this afternoon.
I saw all the footage last night. I thought no one speaks like that. It was just stream after stream of invective. No one speaks like that. He denied point blank that he was an actor. It turns out he is an actor. I found his website. He's a well-spoken actor. He was rough speaking. He wasn't being himself from day one. I have to tell you, this whole thing is a complete and total setup.
Nigel Farage didn't mention Channel 4 specifically, but they have denied any such claim. In a statement, their spokesperson said, "We strongly stand by our rigorous and duly impartial journalism, which speaks for itself." We met Mr Parker for the first time at Reform UK Party headquarters, where he was a Reform canvasser. We did not pay the Reform UK canvasser or anyone else in this report. Mr Parker was not known to Channel 4 News and was filmed covertly via the undercover operation. Nigel Farage also released a 6-minute video in which he said it was the biggest stitch-up that he's seen in his lifetime. Well, let's get reaction from Reem Ibrahim, Roger Gewolb and Alex Dyke. Alex, what do you make of this story?
Well, it's a mess. If it's true, it's disgraceful. But the problem for Nigel Farage is we're only 6 days away from the election, and for an inquiry to be launched and to get to the truth won't come until after the election. I think people are worried about Nigel, and I think there are a certain amount of people out there who want to stick the knife in however they can, because he's now in the big boys league and we can see what he's doing in the polls, and I think there's a lot of people who are worried. I don't know any more than you guys do the truth of the matter, but it's an awful story and I hope they get it sorted out very soon.
Reem, are you worried about this? Does it say something about the culture of Reform UK?
Yeah, I think it does. And I will say this. I think that Mr Parker himself has come out and said that he wasn't a paid actor. He is an actor by profession, but he was a reform campaigner. I think that it is absolutely horrendous language that he used. And the fact of the matter is, if Nigel Farage and the Reform Party want to come across as though they are for more people, they are more diverse, they are actually standing for principles that the Conservative Party have entirely abandoned, they have to weed out people like Andrew Parker. And if it is true that he was a campaigner, people like him have to go. I will say there have been countless stories of Conservative candidates and indeed Conservative campaigners saying equally as horrendous things. So
and we've also had anti-Semitism on the Labour side.
On the Labour Party side, exactly. We've got Islamophobia, anti-Semitism, and clearly elements of racism.
Yeah.
Clearly, there are grassroots organisations and grassroots parties that actually have those kind of things occurring within the institutions. I don't think it's necessarily Nigel's fault. I was talking to somebody the other day who was effectively saying, I would vote for Nigel Farage if this was a presidential election, but the crooks and the corruption that is occurring as a result of the rest of the party means I won't vote Reform for my local candidate.
Briefly, Roger, if you can.
I think it's outrageous. This could be, I certainly don't think it would be Channel 4. It could be anybody that wants to throw a spanner in the works. I mean, as Reem alluded, give me an hour and I will find you Tories that will say the most despicable thing about Muslims, blacks, etc. I will find you Labour people about Jews. I'll find you Green Party people about capitalists. I mean, this man isn't an elected politician. This is some imbecile who either is an imbecile or was acting as an imbecile for whatever reason. And I think it has no relevance whatsoever. You could not judge a party by people canvassing like this. Every party has got them. It should be disregarded. It's not a reflection on Nigel. And if somebody set it up as he suspects it is, that just shows you, as I was saying before, the fever pitch that all these people who supposedly don't care are reaching, and that's why this needs to stop.
Well, there is,
we're overrun.
there's no proof. You've entered the realms of speculation there regarding, any setup, any
I'm not
conspiracy
speculating
theory
anything.
on this. Although that said, stranger things have happened. Let's have a look at the candidates for the Clacton constituency. They are Jovan Owusu-Nipal, Labour; Giles Watling, Conservatives; Matthew Bensalem, Liberal Democrats; Nigel Farage, Reform UK; Natasha Osborne, The Greens; also Craig Jameson, Climate Party; Tony Mack, Independent; Tassos Papanastiu, who is Heritage Party; and Andrew Pemberton, UKIP. OK, now listen, we've talked a lot about Reform and a bit about the Conservatives, but is it the worst nightmare of the right for Labour to win the election on the 4th of July? Keir Starmer is Prime Minister on the 5th, and they do a brilliant job.
Well, I think what is going to happen is that we're going to see interest rates cut, which will come across as a very good thing for the Labour Party. Not thanks to Labour. It was already going to happen. If
it's going to happen under a Labour government.
But it's not as a result. The Bank of England is independent, Mark. You know that.
Immigration,
it's not to do with them.
What's going to happen?
Illegal immigration will probably go down because the weather will get worse.
Thanks to
probably not thanks to Labour.
It's going to
happen anyway.
When it happens.
Well, this is the thing, Mark. There are loads of parameters which Sunak has measured. Interest rates are probably going to go down.
Thanks to Keir Starmer.
No, it's not thanks to Keir Starmer. Mark, you're being terrible.
He's not even in yet.
He's not even in yet. We're already praising him. Look, what is going to happen is a lot of the parameters that Sunak measured his own government on, he's failed. And what is probably going to happen is a lot of those things are going to get better. The economy is probably going to start growing again, and we might even see some fiscal headroom for tax cuts. Now, if that happens under a Labour government, the Conservative Party have absolutely no direction.
Roger Gewald, whisper it, Labour could do a brilliant job in power.
The spurious, specious things you just said remind me of Donald Trump saying, look at this demonstration. There are so many people out here being paid to cause trouble. Look at this. I'm not even president yet, and I'm creating jobs.
There you go. Alex Dyke, what do you think about this? The bottom line is that we've had 14 years of Tory rule. Is there a democratic argument for a Labour government? Just a change after, 15 years almost in power?
Yes, of course there is. And there were a lot of Tories that were happy in '97 when Tony Blair got in with his New Labour. As a lot of Tories did very well out of that.
Keir Starmer's not New Labour, though. I will say this.
He's not.
Across all manifestos...
Hang on, Reem, let me get a
Sorry,
word
go on.
No, Reem, finish your point, and then I'll give Alex... Alex gets the full monologue.
Across all manifestos, there have been policies that effectively show that we've 361 increases in regulation as a result of those manifestos. So no matter who we get, we're going to see broken Britain continue to decline.
Dyke, what do you think? I mean, Labour, they deserve a crack at power, don't they?
Yes, I think they do. A new broom sweeps clean. And as they say in America, it's all about the first 100 days. And what you and Reem were just talking about, if a lot of that happens in the first 100 days, that's going to be good news for Labour.
I think what they actually say in America is what Bill Clinton said. It's the economy, stupid. And the problem is that whilst they might deserve a crack at the whip, Mark, they've scared the hell out of us, Labour.
OK, well, I tell you something, whoever wins on the 5th of July, all power to you, because we need you to succeed. Oh dear, the wheels have finally fallen off for Joe Biden, and it wasn't pretty.
Eligible for what I've been able to do with the with the COVID, with dealing with everything we have to do with. Look, we finally beat Medicare.
Thank you, President Biden.
On the total initiative relative to what we're going to do with more Border Patrol and more asylum officers.
President Trump?
I really don't know what he said at the end of that sentence. I don't think he knows what he said either. Look, we had the safest border in the history of our country. The border, all he had to do was leave it. All he had to do is leave it.
Yikes! Joe Biden isn't fit to be president for the next 4 hours, let alone 4 years. The Democrats clearly have to chuck him out before November. Joe Biden shouldn't be sat in the Oval Office right now. He should be sat in a care home, nursing a lukewarm cup of tea, watching rerun episodes of The Golden Girls, who look like sprightly teenagers compared to this mumbling, incoherent bag of bones. I'm not sure this man could control his bladder, let alone the country. This confused individual in the White House is a profound and existential danger to the West. Our enemies are laughing and plotting. Shame on the Democratic Party for choosing this drooling mess of a man and pretending that all is well and that there's nothing to see here. His team have said that he had a cold last night. Yeah, that's credible, isn't it? We all know that the symptoms of a cold are a runny nose, a cough, and the inability to finish a sentence or walk unaided for more than a few yards. Just imagine if this human ghost gets another 4 years. He won't be inaugurated, he'll be embalmed. Last night was a catastrophe for America and the world. Joe Biden is an accident waiting to happen, and I don't just mean in his trousers. Alex Dyke, be afraid, be very afraid. 4 more years of Joe Biden.
One who couldn't and one who shouldn't. I've heard that term about the television broadcast last night as far as the next president's concerned for America. I did see some placards behind Joe Biden saying, "Let's go, Joe." Maybe it should be "Let go, Joe."
Yeah.
But actually, I remember in the 80s, and I'm sure you guys do too, well, maybe not Reem, because she's a lot younger.
I wasn't alive.
She was a twinkle in her father's eye.
Do you remember when...
Spare me the gory details. Family show, we've all had a drink.
President Reagan called Princess Diana Princess David.
Yes.
And everybody had a bit of a snigger at him.
They did.
But actually, it was probably early signs of dementia.
Yeah.
And I would imagine doctors and neurologists looking at that footage would probably tell you, better educated people than me, that there's something quite wrong with President Biden as far as this House is concerned.
OK, well, listen, he has fought back. He's been addressing Americans once again, and he's come out fighting. Take a listen.
I don't walk as easy as I used to. I don't speak as smoothly as I used to. I don't debate as well as I used to. But I know what I do know. I know how to tell the truth.
There you go, Reem Ibrahim. Has Biden already bounced back?
No, he is not, Mark, and I honestly feel sorry for him. I was up late last night watching the debate, and I've got to say, I think
you need to organise you a social life at some point.
I do. I need a better social life. I need friends. But what was really interesting is I think Trump performed incredibly well, but almost he didn't need to throw out all of the stops. He didn't need to throw all of the punches because Biden did it for him. Biden came across as incredibly weak, but also incredibly incoherent and unable to actually articulate the presidency that he has just had over the last 4 years.
Does it matter if you're doing a good job as president? The economy is booming.
But it isn't. This is the point,
Jobs
Mark.
are being created.
If
America has amazing growth at the moment.
It's always had amazing growth because they are ultra-capitalists, unfortunately, not like us. But what I will say is that the US itself as a country will always be economically stable as a result of their economic system. They are very, very pro-markets and very pro-business. In the UK, we don't do that. Biden himself is unable to communicate that. What the President of the United States needs to be able to do is, on international scale, on the international global stage, defend the West and defend our freedoms. And I don't think Biden can do that.
The bottom line is Biden may not be a great communicator, Roger Gewald, but he's not a born liar and misogynist like Donald Trump, is he?
No, he's a worse liar than Donald Trump.
Is that a low bar?
That's a very low bar. I mean, he is under impeachment investigation and should be prosecuted for the deals that he and Hunter did selling influence in China, Russia. But look, people this side of the pond tend not to, quite naturally, understand the intricacies of American politics. And the Democratic Party has undergone a fantastic change. And this is actually Barack Obama, who wants a fourth term. That's all this is. That's why they're keeping this dead body up there, OK? And
so you subscribe to the theory that really this is currently Obama's third term and that he's pulling the strings in the White House?
I mean, anybody can see that, of course. And, you know, now Joe Biden, they've propped him up again today, and he said what he had to say. But last night was just simply such an embarrassment.
It wasn't good. I mean, even CNN, MSNBC were beginning to disown their hero.
At the end of the thing, the discussion, the most ardent supporters, David Axelrod, as I say, it's hard if you're British to understand the nuance of some of these.
Only a couple of seconds, Roger.
Some of these characters who are so Biden,
Roger,
were saying he's too old, we got to get rid of him.
Are they going to ditch Biden?
A rumor was
November?
circulating in the States for months that on the 13th of June he was going to stand down, be replaced by Gavin Newsom. It didn't happen. It's going to happen now. My prediction is a few weeks.
Wow, there you go. You heard it here first. Coming up, as celebrity Ryland Clark reveals political ambitions, do we need more celebrities in British politics? And as another middle-aged star faces the axe, find out who that is in just a moment. Whatever happened to old people on telly? See you shortly.
Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. Tomorrow, bit of a three-way split with our weather. Bright and breezy across Scotland with a few showers, mostly fine and sunny across East Anglia and the southeast. But in between, this weather system is creeping towards us. Not a particularly potent one, but it will bring cloud and some outbreaks of rain. That's starting to move across the Republic of Ireland at the moment and spreading towards Wales and southern parts of Northern Ireland by dawn. Still a few showers across the far north and west of Scotland. Still quite breezy here as well, but elsewhere the wind's pretty light with some clearer skies. Temperatures will dip down to single figures, but it's actually turning quite cloudy here, but that will keep the cloudy temperatures up across Wales and northwest England through the early hours. The cloud will increase a little bit across southwest England too, so a grey start here for some, maybe the odd shower, but for much of East Anglia and the southeast, fine and sunny, and for a good part of Scotland and Northern Ireland, certainly the north of Northern Ireland, a fine start to Saturday, some decent spells of sunshine. Still quite breezy across the far north and still plenty of showers packing in across Caithness, Sutherland, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles. They'll keep going for much of the day, but a good chunk of Scotland will be dry. This cloud and rain, though, likely to stick around. Not much rain, I suspect, getting to the east of the Pennines, but still predominantly cloudy here. Dull and damp on some of those coasts across northwest England, north and west Wales throughout. But brighter skies further south and with a bit of sunshine. 25 degrees is possible across the southeast. Scotland and Northern Ireland in the high teens, but with a bit of sunshine. It shouldn't feel too bad because the winds will be lighter tomorrow compared to today. Mostly fairly light winds on Sunday as well. Some rain will head back towards Shetland. Could start quite grey in the south with one or two showers here. Quite a bit of cloud on Sunday, but I'm still optimistic that many places will see some sunny spells. And we've lost the heat from earlier in the week. Temperatures at or a touch below average.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Good afternoon, Britain.
Your lunchtime update on the stories that matter across the UK.
From breaking news and insightful analysis, inspiring stories and lively debates. You're comparing yourself to a former Prime Minister.
Which is it?
Stay informed, stay updated, stay entertained.
I just don't know how anyone would not want to be there.
Every weekday from midday.
We are Good Afternoon Britain, only on GB News.
Britain's news channel.
TV presenter Rylan Clark has said he'd love to become a politician and replace the party system with a Power Rangers of government model. Whatever that means, I'm not sure, because I don't speak Rylan Clark. But does British politics need more celebrities in it? Roger Gewald.
No, absolutely not. They should stick to acting and performing and stay out of politics. And all of the politicians should stay out of acting. I think if those
what about
two,
Ronald Reagan?
I think that's an exception. I think if those, I mean, he was a wonderful president and he made the transition very well. I think if those two things happened, it would be of immense value.
Yeah. What do you think about this, Alex? I mean, you've been on the radio for many years. You've interviewed all of the big stars of music and showbiz. Do you think more of these people should contribute to public life?
Well, I think it all depends who they are, Mark. If Jeremy Clarkson was going into politics, or Piers Morgan, I get that. But Rylan, I mean, I've listened to I listened to one of his shows once, and he was playing the Lighthouse Family and you know, Adele.
You've lost me there already.
And in between, he was asking what the oldest thing in your fridge was, and would you like to call in? So I don't think he's going to make a great Prime Minister, but in fairness to him, he said this in a podcast. He said, if I haven't got the job that I've got now, which I love, I'd like to go into politics. But who knows?
But you mentioned Jeremy Clarkson. I mean, I think people would vote for Jeremy Clarkson. He's got two columns, hasn't he? The Sun newspaper and the Sunday Times. They're quite political, very often.
Yeah.
He's now very, very experienced in the world of farming. I wonder whether he would be a good...
Yeah, in business. He's a good businessman.
Right.
And what I was going to say earlier, but I couldn't get a word in edgeways because of Ream, what I was going to say was the fair weather voters, they vote for the likes of the interesting personalities like Nigel Farage and Boris Johnson and Donald Trump. So if it was someone like Clarkson or Piers Morgan, maybe someone a little less divisive than that, I can see... Well, Piers would be interesting, wouldn't he? But Rylan, no, I'm sorry, Rylan. Okay.
So my problem with celebrities going into politics is that they tend to know nothing about politics. And the problem is that ultimately you end up getting people, and especially I'm talking about like Hollywood, kind of very modern young people that end up going into politics. They're all incredibly woke. Thinking about, you know, celebrities like Marcus Rashford, who campaigned effectively to allow every single child, no matter how rich you are, how wealthy you are, every single child to get free school meals. Everyone celebrated it. It's amazing. Free stuff.
He helped poor, hungry kids, didn't he?
Not just poor, hungry kids, middle class, very wealthy kids. Kids like my sister that are now getting...
It's not means tested.
It's not means tested. It's a huge waste of money. But the thing is, Mark, is that you effectively get celebrities who like things that are popular, and it's very popular to give out free stuff. And effectively, we're wasting taxpayer money as a result.
There you go. Fascinating stuff. Well, folks, let's move on. The truth will get you cancelled. ITV's main news presenter, Tom Bradby, has said that there aren't many white male news anchors left as he prepares to host ITV's election night coverage. His remarks have been met with fury from colleagues inside ITN where he works. Of course they have. In response to his outrageous comments, in which he said lots of true things out loud, never do that, folks, 3 journalists wrote to ITV's Empower network confirming that they had contacted bosses to air their complaints. God forbid that they should do any news gathering or something like that. The HR department are going to have a field day with this one. Let's be honest, they run most modern businesses these days anyway. Who cares about making money or keeping your customers happy when a department of politically correct pen pushers can spend all day working out how diverse the company car park is or whether putting lamb boona on the lunch menu is cultural appropriation. The idea of being male, pale and stale, which is implicitly racist, sexist and ageist, by the way, who knew, has impacted some of the biggest stars in the country, not least Ken Bruce, who was host of the biggest radio show in Europe on Radio 2. That's right, he had the biggest radio show in Europe on Radio 2, but was forced to head to a commercial rival. And perhaps the ITV star Tom Bradby ought to be looking over his shoulder too, because the same network has sensationally axed legendary football commentator Clive Tildesley after 28 years of glorious service, with just one last Euro 2024 fixture to cover on Saturday. Despite being one of the most experienced sport broadcasters in the world, at the height of his powers, he'll be taking advantage of one of Labour's new-look job centres if they win the next election. British television has become institutionally woke, and bosses don't care if you watch the box anymore. They just want you to tick them. Merit will always trump woke ideology, and I'm certain that our excellent, rich and diverse population who want the best people for the job will be voting with their remote controls. Well, Reem, whatever happened to old people on the telly? Where are they?
Where are they? Where are old people and where are, like, the regular white working class men on television? The problem is, Mark, is that effectively we've come into this kind of political arena in which the way that you look and what you have in between your legs is more important than what you actually have to say and the contribution you want to make to television or indeed to public spaces. And ultimately we see this balance as I actually benefit from it. I do more of the BBC politics than any of my other colleagues because I'm an ethnic minority young woman. I benefit from it and I think it's wrong. We should be judging people based on, indeed, their actual meritocratic value rather than what they look like.
You've just cancelled yourself.
I have. I've cancelled it. I benefit from
the
it.
BBC's losses are going. We'll give you every show. Listen, Alex, you were at the Beeb for a long time.
Yeah.
Do you recognise this institutionalised ageism?
I do.
Male, pale and stale.
Yeah, it's very... And if you're middle class as well, then you really are going to be shown the door.
Is tricky?
Yes, yeah. All of those things, they're all of me. So I feel I was on a hit list. Clive, the picture you put up of Clive wasn't the best picture of Clive. He's 69. He doesn't look 69.
No.
69 isn't old anymore. I mean, I don't think he's going to head for the job centre because he does soccer coverage for CBS and Paramount, and he probably gets paid a lot of money to do that. So good for him. But it's absolutely ridiculous, and it's all being flagged up now by great channels like GB News and presenters like yourself. But when is something going to be done about it? I'm 62 and I feel about 40. So come on, give us a break.
Hold fire, Roger, because I want to hear from you after this, because coming up is Glastonbury, a festival of hypocrisy. We'll debate that next.
This is GB News, Britain's news channel.
The University of Cambridge has told students to stop flirting with staff under a new policy banning sexual relationships with professors. The new rules, which come into force next month, beginning of July, include a warning against behaviour that could be interpreted as flirtatious. University staff have been told they must report any behaviour that could constitute a student making advances towards a personal, particularly intimate relationship with them. If you're a tutor, how do you interpret what is flirting and what is just sort of like having a bit of banter?
In fact, we've got to sort of
very nice trousers, by the way.
Thank you.
You see, you didn't even recognise.
Oh, I didn't.
Well,
I think I'm blushing now. I'm blushing.
So, what's flirting? What's me complimenting your very well-fitting trousers? Yeah.
Well, there is a line, because obviously when you're 18 and you go to university, it might be the first time you're away from home. It might be the first time that you're open to maybe a bit of a nightlife, social activity, drinking and all the rest of it. On the flip side, I know a couple who, this pupil ended up dating their professor, and they've been together for about sort of 15 years now. So I used to go after lectures with my professor and the whole seminar. We used to go to the pub afterwards, and I became very good friends with... she was a mature student. She was on the very, very far left of political... you wondered where that was going for a second, didn't you?
We're both breathing a huge sigh of relief.
Very quick for you, Joe. We're running out of very nice trousers as well. We're running out of time.
Not as snug as Charlie. I think you've got to have some rules in place that there's no abuse of power. Policing it's difficult. we ought to be in a position where you can say, get off, back off, or, you know, banter's fine. Actually, I hate that word. I hate it almost as much as woke. Go on, email in.
Thank you very much. I'm flirting with both.
The People's Channel.
On election night, we are throwing a party.
The GB News Election Night Watch Party will be live from Essex and you are all invited.
On air from 10 o'clock, we'll have familiar faces from across the channel, entertainment and lots more stuff as we keep our eye on all the results as they come flying in.
If you want to join our live Election Night Watch Party audience, scan the QR code on screen or go to gbnews.com/election party.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Dubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
It's that time of year when the whole of North London descends on Somerset for the Glastonbury Festival. It's ironic that this event is held up as an example of a communal way of life, everyone being caring and sharing and environmentally friendly. Apparently, it's the rejection of capitalism, of borders, of inequality. In reality, this is an oversubscribed commercial event with big-name corporate sponsors. The cost of a ticket to this experiment in communism is £355, plus a £5 booking fee, to which I'm sure Karl Marx would give his blessing. Ticketmaster have got to have their cut, haven't they? This utopian environment where everyone is equal, where everything is shared and there are no borders, is protected by a 13.5-foot high, 4.5-mile metal fence, which is impregnable. You can't even dig a tunnel. Bad news for Hamas, who are probably booked on the pyramid stage. The enormous reinforced Glastonbury fence is the kind of border wall that even Donald Trump would consider excessive. Not a single person is able to enter this event without the correct accreditation, without the organisers knowing exactly who is coming in and that they have a right to be there. Imagine if the country was like that. We can but dream. The shows are populated by millionaire headliners who fly around the globe on a private jet. And those considering buying a couple of pints at the beer tent and a vegan sausage roll may need to consider taking out a second mortgage to feed themselves at this anti-capitalist party. I say mortgage, by the way, because most of them in attendance are crushingly middle class. And in spite of the eco message underpinning the whole affair, the impact on this natural environment is nothing short of devastating, with a mountain of litter and thousands of plastic tents left behind by the socially conscious partygoers who, don't forget, have spent 5 days hoovering up more than just lukewarm Carlsberg lager. It is a festival of drug use, which bankrolls international drug cartels, feeds crime, destroys communities and leads to devastated lives. But these are the good people, folks. Do keep up. Oh, and look at those lovely flags at a music festival. How ironic. It was, wasn't it, originally from the river to the sea. It's Glastonbury, from the river to the mud. Every so often, the organisers have to take a year off, a so-called fallow year, so that the depleted natural environment can begin to recover from 5 days of drunken wokery. Now, full disclosure, I've performed at Glastonbury several times, and I had a great time. The people involved in running it are a delight. A lot of cash goes to good causes. It is an excellent British tradition, and long may it continue. But please don't tell me this is a socialist utopia. The Glastonbury Festival is more capitalist than a high street bank. It's a festival of not just music, but of wild hypocrisy. And they poo outside. Right. Roger, briefly, Glastonbury. It's not an experiment in communism. It's the most commercial thing ever.
Absolutely. That last thing, you floored me there. Yeah, I mean, it's like all these things, they become more and more commercial. It's like Burning Man in the States, which developed a section that only multi-gazillionaires come to, with gold taps and things, and Glastonbury's going the same way.
It's wild. Alex, you've got a story about a helicopter.
I'll tell you that just but quickly, Mark. There's a company called Love Your Tent, festivals this year that are pleading with people on big video screens there to take your tent home and love your tent again.
Love your tent.
So that's good news. Also at Glastonbury this year, Lulu, the legendary Lulu, who's worked with everyone from the Beatles, the Bee Gees to David Bowie, and take that, is going to be doing her last ever live gig there.
Oh, wow.
So that'd be worth watching on the BBC.
Love Lulu.
And I was at the Isle of Wight Festival last weekend. Fantastic festival. For my money, the best festival. And I met a millionaire there who had driven down, and he's going to Glastonbury this weekend, and he's flying there in his helicopter.
You couldn't make it up. Reem, couple of seconds. What have you got?
Glastonbury is a perfect capitalist success story.
There you go. As are you. Can I thank my brilliant pundits tonight? Next up is Patrick Christie's Tonight with the one and only Nana Akua.
Hello, right. Well, listen, we've got loads coming up in the show. We're going to be talking about those comments that were made by those who are supposedly helping reform. Of course, Nigel Farage is talking about that over on the BBC. I probably shouldn't mention that right now, but we will give you a quick update on all of that. Brandon Lewis will also be in the studio talking about what he thinks could possibly happen next for the Tories, and we'll be speaking to Tim Stanley. It's a busy old show.
Can't wait, Nana. You are I'm one fan. Now, this weekend, Michael Jackson's Magician, the Green Goddess Diana Moran, Anne Widdecombe and Kelvin MacKenzie on Mark Dolan tonight, 9 to 11. See you tomorrow at 9.
That warm feeling inside from Boxed Boilers, sponsors of weather on GB News.
Time for your latest weather update from the Met Office here on GB News. Good evening to you. Tomorrow, bit of a three-way split with our weather. Bright and breezy across Scotland with a few showers, mostly fine and sunny across East Anglia and the southeast. But in between, this weather system is creeping towards us. Not a particularly potent one, but it will bring cloud and some outbreaks of rain. That's starting to move across the Republic of Ireland at the moment and spreading towards Wales and southern parts of Northern Ireland by dawn. Still a few showers across the far north and west of Scotland. Still quite breezy here as well, but elsewhere the wind's pretty light with some clearer skies. Temperatures will dip down to single figures, but it's actually turning quite cloudy here, but that will keep the cloudy temperatures up across Wales and northwest England through the early hours. The cloud will increase a little bit across southwest England too, so a grey start here for some, maybe the odd shower, but for much of East Anglia and the southeast, fine and sunny, and for a good part of Scotland and Northern Ireland, certainly the north of Northern Ireland, a fine start to Saturday, some decent spells of sunshine. Still quite breezy across the far north and still plenty of showers packing in across Caithness, Sutherland, the Western Isles and the Northern Isles. They'll keep going for much of the day, but a good chunk of Scotland will be dry. This cloud and rain, though, likely to stick around. Not much rain, I suspect, getting to the east of the Pennines, but still predominantly cloudy here. Dull and damp on some of those coasts across northwest England, north and west Wales throughout. But brighter skies further south and with a bit of sunshine. 25 degrees is possible across the southeast. Scotland and Northern Ireland in the high teens, but with a bit of sunshine. It shouldn't feel too bad because the winds will be lighter tomorrow compared to today. Mostly fairly light winds on Sunday as well. Some rain will head back towards Shetland. Could start quite grey in the south with one or two showers here. Quite a bit of cloud on Sunday, but I'm still optimistic that many places will see some sunny spells. And we've lost the heat from earlier in the week. Temperatures at or a touch below average.
Looks like things are...
Every Saturday, 10 till 12, we'll bring you all of the news that you need to know. We'll also remind you that there is so much to smile about.
It's my favourite time of the week. I get to relax, enjoy some light-hearted stories, and let Ellie teach me about fashion too.
That's Saturday Morning Live, every Saturday, 10 till 12.
Only on GB News, Britain's news channel.
We're proud to be GB News, the People's Channel, and as you know, we always love to hear your views. Now, there's a new way of getting in touch with us at gbnews.com/yoursay. By commenting, you can be part of a live conversation and join our GB News community. You can even talk to me, Bev Turner, or any of the members of the GB News family.
Join me, Neil Oliver, every Sunday night at 6 p.m. on GB News. And if an hour is not nearly enough for you, go to gbnews.com for special extended episodes online every Friday at 9 p.m, where we can truly get into the nitty-gritty of what's going on. GB News, Britain's news channel.
Congratulations to the GB News winners at this year's Trick Awards.
And the winner of Interview of the Year is... Alistair Stewart reveals his heartbreaking diagnosis to Camilla Tominey.
And the winner is GB News Breakfast. And the winner is Nigel Farage.
And thank you to you, our GB News viewers and listeners, for making us the People's Channel, Britain's news channel.
Hi there, I'm Michelle Dewberry and I'm going to take a second to tell you all about my show, Jubes & Co. We start off with the issues of the day. We then bring in both sides of the argument. We get rid of the disrespect. And then you throw me into the mix. And trust me, I'll tell it exactly how it is. And then, of course, the magic ingredient, you at home. We mix it all together and what have we got, in my opinion, the best debate show in town. Monday to Friday, 6 till 7 on GB News, Britain's news channel.
If you want your news to be straight talking,
this is a nightmare for the Conservatives again.
Down to earth.
It's not just Nottingham where this is happening, is it?
And most importantly, honest.
Hard-working, middle-class taxpayers, they'll get their book thrown at them.
Then catch me, Martin Daubney, Monday to Friday, 3 till 6 p.m. on GB News, Britain's news channel.
I'm Isabel Webster. Thanks for